Hello, good morning, everybody. So today we shall be continuing with the anti-epileptic drugs part 2. I hope you have all revised the first part wherein we have discussed about phenytoin, carbamazepine, phenobarbital, and a few other drugs. In today's session, we shall be discussing about the detailed pharmacology of the next set of drugs, that is ethosuximide, sodium valproate, lamotrigine, gabapentin, and pregabalin, and also about the benzodiazepines. So we shall be starting with ethosuximide. So from the classification, you know that this is a succinimide. Then regarding its mechanism of action, it is inhibiting selectively the T-type or the transient type of calcium currents in the thalamic neurons. These are low threshold calcium currents which act as pacemakers and amplify the repetitive discharges. Now, so by inhibiting these repetitive discharges, ethosuximide finds its use as an anti-epileptic drug. So it is given orally. It has got a slow absorption, but the absorption is complete. It is metabolized in liver and is excreted in the urine. The T half of ethosuximide is slightly more in adults, that is 48 hours. It gets relatively faster metabolized in children and has got a T half of 32 hours. The adverse drug reactions of ethosuximide principally include GI intolerance. The other adverse effects are tiredness, headache, and a sense of drowsiness. Then even mood changes, agitation, inability to concentrate, such type of behavioral problems have also been occasionally reported with the use of ethosuximide. Rarely you may find hypersensitivity reactions also. This drug finds its use mainly in absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. So in the first class, the drugs that you dealt with principally were used for generalized seizures and partial seizures. And here you will see drugs which are mainly used for absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. Even the other drugs that we are going to discuss today will be mainly catering to the absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. Next, we go to valproic acid or sodium valproate. This is a very important drug from the examination point of view, as well as definitely for the clinical use also. So from the classification, we know it is an aliphatic carboxylic acid derivative. It is a broad spectrum anti-epileptic drug. So remember this terminology, broad spectrum anti-epileptic drug. That means it can be used for a variety of um, types of epilepsies. Now this is all, you have to note this term here because very often they ask you to write about broad spectrum anti-epileptic drugs. So this is one example of a broad spectrum anti-epileptic drug. So you'll see that it is used in a number of types of epilepsy. That is why it's called as a broad spectrum anti-epileptic drug. Now look at the mechanism of action. So whatever mechanisms of actions we have discussed in the first topic, that is the general mechanisms, this drug acts by all those mechanisms. So it has got multiple mechanisms. It prolongs the inactivated state of sodium channel, just like phenytoin and carbamazepine. It inhibits a T type of calcium current in thalamic neurons, just like ethosuximide, which we discussed in the previous slide. It increases the GABA activity in the brain. And how does it do that? By increasing the synthesis of the GABA from the glutamic acid, as well as it inhibits the degradation of GABA by the enzyme GABA transaminase. It also inhibits the excitatory glutamate receptors. So by all these mechanisms, it is causing its anti-epileptic action. So all these diagrams which we have discussed, it is applicable to the actions of sodium valproate. It is once again prolonging the inactivated state of sodium channel, inhibiting the excitatory glutamatergic receptors. It is increasing the GABA activity by increasing the synthesis from glutamic acid, as well as it is preventing the degradation of GABA by inhibiting the GABA transaminase enzyme. You can see the GABA is degraded into succinic semi-aldehyde, SSA, okay, succinic semi-aldehyde by the enzyme GABA transaminase. And this enzyme also is inhibited by sodium valproate. Next, it is also inhibiting the T type of calcium current in thalamic neurons. So this mechanism is very important. You have to be very thorough with the mechanisms of actions of sodium valproate. It has got good oral absorption. It is 90% plasma protein bounded. So it is susceptible to drug interactions which may involve plasma protein displacement reactions. It is metabolized in liver by CYP2C9 and CYP2C19, excreted in urine. The plasma T half is about 10 to 15 hours. So, though the plasma T half is 10 to 15 hours, its anti-epileptic action may be somewhat more than this. This is mainly because some of the metabolites that are produced are active metabolites and they prolong the anti-epileptic action beyond its duration of action. Now, the adverse effects, the principal adverse effects with the use of sodium valproate include vomiting and anorexia mainly. You also see alopecia and curling of hair. Liver toxicity is also a prominent adverse effect seen. It is usually asymptomatic rise in serum transaminases. That means there will be no clinical features, but when we check the LFT or the liver function test, you will be seeing a rise in the serum transaminases. However, if it is used in children less than 3 years, a fulminant hepatitis can be produced. Fulminant hepatitis is more common also in people who are having a pre-existing liver disorder or who are on concurrent drugs which can cause liver toxicity. Pancreatitis is also occasionally seen with the use of sodium valproate. Very rarely you see rashes, thrombocytopenia, and because of that there might be a bleeding tendency. Edema is also is seen in some patients. This drug is a teratogenic drug. The teratogenicity associated with this drug is spina bifida and other neural tube defects. I hope you already know what is a spina bifida and other neural tube defects. You have learned about this, have seen pictures and all in the first year, as well as you know, in general also you know what is spina bifida. Teratogenicity associated with sodium valproate is spina bifida. So as undergraduate medical students, when you say teratogenicity, it will always be impressive if you say a type of teratogenicity, because you can just, often I see people just saying teratogenicity and just letting it go, but that is not the thing. If you want to be a little bit better off as a student, you should be also interested in what kind of teratogenicity it is causing. So this drug causes spina bifida and other neural tube defects. It is an enzyme inhibitor also. It's not an adverse drug reaction, but I just included that to complete this acronym, that is valproate. So it's an enzyme inhibitor also. The drug interactions include, it inhibits the metabolism of other anti-epileptic drugs like phenobarbital, phenytoin, lamotrigine. It also displaces phenytoin from plasma protein binding sites. So if you take the drug interaction of valproate and phenytoin alone, what will you comment? You will comment that valproate inhibits the metabolism of phenytoin. It also displaces phenytoin from plasma protein binding site. So what happens? So the it is displacing phenytoin from the plasma protein binding site. So more of the free amount of phenytoin will be available. And you already know the free levels or the free drug is always metabolized. So it displaces it and makes it free, and it also metabolizes the free part. So it is actually decreasing the levels of phenytoin. Okay, so the interactions of anti-epileptics among themselves is very complex, because already I told you in the first class itself that they got multiple interactions between them, because all of them are either inhibitors or inducers, and their interactions are very complex. The uses, mainly it is a drug of choice for absence seizures. It is also finding use in generalized tonic-clonic seizure, simple partial seizure, complex partial seizure, and myoclonic seizure. And that is the reason why it is called as a broad spectrum anti-epileptic. Other than epilepsy, it is also used in mania, bipolar disorder, and also for migraine prophylaxis. So these are the uses of sodium valproate. So At this point, I would like to tell you that because we get so many uses. Okay, so if somebody asks you what are the drugs which are used for migraine prophylaxis, so though you have studied the number of drugs, you should also recall those at this point when we are discussing those drugs as such. So sodium valproate as a migraine prophylaxis drug you have learned in the chapter on migraine, but at this point it's a revision for you. So at the end of the pharmacology syllabus, you should be able to count. If you are asked drugs used for migraine prophylaxis, you should be able to say one drug from here, and also you get more drugs on the way. So you should be able or should have the ability to just list these drugs from each chapter, or you can even make up small separate notes where you just like take out all these things that you find extra and record it so that it will become easy for you later on. Similarly, for trigeminal neuralgia, with the first class, we discussed examples, phenytoin, carbamazepine. So when it is asked separately, if you make up a note separately, it will be very easy for you to recall and list it out very fast. Next, we go to divalproex. It is otherwise called as semi-sodium valproate. It's a coordination compound of valproic acid and sodium valproate in the ratio of 1:1. So coordination compound, I hope you already know it from chemistry classes. They are compounds which usually have a central atom, and the central atom is usually a metal ion, and this central atom is called as the coordination center, and it is connected to the peripheral atoms by coordination bonds. That is why it is called as a coordination compound. So that is only the chemistry part of it. So it is also having a slow oral absorption, but the bioavailability is same as that of sodium valproate. As compared to sodium valproate, it has got a better GI tolerance. However, this drug finds more use for mania and bipolar disorder as compared to the use in epilepsy. For epilepsy, it is having the same use as that of sodium valproate, that is for all these seizures that I have listed earlier. But for some reason, this is more popular for the use of mania and bipolar disorder as compared to that in epilepsy. Now we move on to the next drug, that is lamotrigine. So this drug is also a broad spectrum anti-epileptic drug. So far we have got two drugs, which is a broad spectrum, sodium valproate, lamotrigine. And the mechanism of action, it is very similar to, its action is somewhat similar to carbamazepine. It prolongs the inactivated state of sodium channels. In addition, it also directly blocks the voltage sensitive sodium channel. It also has an action on preventing the release of excitatory neurotransmitters like glutamate. These are the three principal actions of lamotrigine. Has got a good oral absorption and a T half of almost 1 day. That is, you need to just give one dose per day. Again, you can see a number of drug interactions are there. Phenytoin, carbamazepine, phenobarbital induce the metabolism of lamotrigine. Valproate inhibits the metabolism of lamotrigine. Valproate levels are lowered by lamotrigine. So you can see that interaction between valproate and lamotrigine. So valproate inhibits the metabolism of lamotrigine, and valproate lowers the levels of lamotrigine. That means valproate is inducing the metabolism of lamotrigine. So there's a lot of interaction that is there between these anti-epileptic. So as an undergraduate, if you're not very familiar with all the interactions also, it is quite fine. But you have to at least know some of the interactions which I have emphasized in all the slides. Okay, so these interactions, because of these interactions, it is very difficult to adjust the dose, because especially when you are using more than one anti-epileptic drug in a patient, often you have to go in for a lot of dose adjustments because of these interactions. So this drug is also, because it is a broad spectrum anti-epileptic, finds its use in generalized tonic-clonic seizures, partial seizures, absent seizures, myoclonic seizures, and akinetic epilepsy. So this is the first time you are seeing akinetic epilepsy there in as a use under lamotrigine. The adverse drug reactions include mainly vomiting, sleepiness, dizziness, and then ataxia, diplopia, and occasionally there can be some troublesome rashes also. And if rash develops, may have to discontinue this drug. Next, we go on to gabapentin. So gabapentin is a GABA derivative. It's a lipophilic GABA derivative, and hence it can cross to the brain, cross the blood-brain barrier and reach the brain, and there it enhances the GABA release. That is the principal mechanism by which gabapentin seems to be acting. It is all another additional mechanism has been postulated, that is it blocks the voltage sensitive calcium channels. The calcium channels which have got a subunit called as alpha to delta 1 subunits. There are special type of calcium channels, and they block these calcium channels, and because of which there's a decreased entry of calcium into the presynaptic neurons, and this indirectly inhibits the release of excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate. So if you don't remember these complete lines, you can just at least mention that it also inhibits the release of excitatory neurotransmitters glutamate. If in case if you don't remember these the names of these channels that are having the alpha to delta 1 subunits, at least you have to mention this much. So it is principally used as an add-on drug, mainly in refractory partial seizures, but it finds more use in kind of neuralgic pain, that is diabetic neuropathic pain, post-herpetic neuralgia, even for migraine prophylaxis and phobia. So as an anti-epileptic, it is only an add-on drug, especially for cases which are refractory, means you're giving lots of drugs, anti-epileptic drugs, but still the response is not the response is not adequate. That is called as a refractive partial seizure. It's a simple way to put it. So you can use this drug as an add-on to other drugs for refractory partial seizures, but it finds a lot of use for treatment of neuralgic pain that you find in diabetic patients very commonly, for migraine prophylaxis and phobia. So in this chapter itself, we have come across two drugs which are used for migraine prophylaxis. The one is sodium valproate and the other one is migraine prophylaxis. Then the very one of the very attracting feature of this drug is that it has got no drug interactions like the previous anti-epileptic drugs. The adverse drug reactions include sedation, tiredness, a feeling of unsteadiness, dizziness, and some patients also complain of tremors. Pregabalin, it is a new congener of gabapentin. It has got similar actions and uses like gabapentin, but it is mainly resorted for the treatment of neuropathic pain. It finds very less use for treatment of epilepsy. It is mainly used for the treatment of neuropathic pain. Now the last part, that is benzodiazepines. So again, you have learned about benzodiazepines elaborately under two chapters. That is, one is under sedative hypnotics and also under skeletal muscle relaxants. And you have seen that these benzodiazepines, they act mainly by potentiating the GABA-induced chloride channel opening. The mechanism of action which you saw in sedative hypnotic chapter, that is the same mechanism here also. That is, it acts by the anticonvulsant action is also because of the GABA-induced chloride channel opening. However, whether it is a sedative or whether it is producing the anti-epileptic action or whether it is producing a skeletal muscle action, relaxant action, depends on the area of the brain where it is potentiating this GABA action. So if it is potentiating the GABA action in the reticular activating system, so the result will be sedative action. So similarly, depending on the different areas of the brain where it is potentiating the GABA action, it will be producing the different action effects, that is sedation, sedative effects, anticonvulsant effects, skeletal muscle relaxant effects, and so on. The benzodiazepines which are mainly used as anticonvulsants are diazepam, lorazepam, clobazam, and clonazepam. Of these, diazepam, lorazepam, and clobazam are very popularly used. However, clonazepam has lost its importance nowadays because of its adverse effects. So we shall look into diazepam first. It is one of the most commonly used anticonvulsant for a variety of convulsions. But one thing that you have to remember is that it is not used for long-term control of epilepsy. Like the other drugs we have discussed so far, it is not used for the long-term control of epilepsy, mainly because it produces a lot of sedation effect. And the other reason is development of tolerance to anti-epileptic effects. So if you use this drug chronically, the patient will develop tolerance to its anti-epileptic effect within a few months. So this is not used for chronic or long-term therapy of epilepsy. So where is it used? It is used mainly for emergency control of convulsions. So you can see a number of conditions where we need to have an emergency control of convulsion. For example, in the case of status epilepticus, I have already defined what is status epilepticus in the first class. So this is one of the principal drugs used for the emergency control of convulsions in status epilepticus. Tetanus. Tetanus. You already know tetanus also produces the convulsions, and for that also you can use diazepam. Febrile convulsions occurring in children with high-grade fever. Eclampsia occurring in pregnancy. And here also it is having a very short span of action because of its rapid redistribution phenomena. So remember that the action is short lasting because of its rapid redistribution phenomena. The dose, it is given by the slow IV route in a dose of 0.2 to 0.5 milligram per kilogram body weight. It can be repeated if required to a maximum dose of 100 milligram per day. IV route usually produces thrombophlebitis of the injected vein, sudden fall in BP, and respiratory depression. So you have to be very cautious when you are using the IV route of diazepam, and all the resuscitation measures should be available nearby if you are giving IV diazepam. Then for this reason, it is for febrile convulsions, it is usually given by the rectal route in the form of suppository and so on. Rectal diazepam is relatively safer as compared to that of IV diazepam. Next, we go on to lorazepam. So, in all the emergency situations that we have discussed earlier, like status epilepticus, tetanus, and all, this drug, lorazepam, is preferred over diazepam for emergency seizure control. That is for two reasons. First, it produces less of adverse effects like thrombophlebitis, and this drug has got a more sustained action as compared to diazepam, which has got only which has got a short lasting action due to its rapid redistribution. So for this reason, so you will see more of lorazepam being used for status epilepticus management. It is given in a dose of 0.1 milligram per kilogram slow IV. Next is clobazam. It is a 1,5 benzodiazepine. So all these other benzodiazepines like diazepam, lorazepam, clonazepam, all these are 1,4 benzodiazepine. Only this one is 1,5 benzodiazepine. Here, this drug produces, the mechanism of action is same as that we have discussed for the other benzodiazepines. This produces comparatively lesser sedation and psychomotor disturbances. It is usually administered as an oral drug, as an add-on drug for partial seizures and absence and myoclonic seizures. It also finds a use for intermittent prophylaxis in children with febrile seizures. So in the first class, I have mentioned a case of febrile seizures. So often the children who develop febrile seizures, several episodes of febrile seizure, they are put on intermittent prophylaxis. That is, they are given this drug, that is clobazam, when they are running episodes of fever. Only during that time, along with the fever medications, they are also given clobazam to prevent the occurrence of febrile convulsion. The last benzodiazepine is clonazepam. It is only used as an adjuvant in absence and myoclonic seizures. This is not a popular drug because of rapid development of tolerance and certain adverse effects, unacceptable adverse effects like sedation, motor disturbances like ataxia, behavioral problems like irritability, temper tantrums, and also attention deficits. That is about the benzodiazepam. Okay, so benzodiazepine. So in this class, we have principally discussed about ethosuximide, then about sodium valproate, lamotrigine, gabapentin, pregabalin, and about the benzodiazepines. So most of it, we have seen that they are a broad spectrum. For example, sodium valproate and lamotrigine. They also find additional uses like prophylaxis, migraine prophylaxis. We have seen sodium valproate being used. You also seen the gabapentin. Even in bipolar disorder, you can see the use of sodium valproate and gabapentin. For neuropathic pains, you have seen gabapentin and pregabalin being used. And for the emergency control of convulsions, we have seen mainly diazepam and lorazepam being used, of which lorazepam is preferred because of its sustained action and less adverse effects on IV administration. So these are some of the additional bits that I'm saying to wind up the session. So just go through it, and when you come for the third part, you should be well versed with the first part and the second part. The third part will be the concluding part of this chapter. So thank you all for your patient hearing.